there's not going to be anything on the screen right now. I'm just going to go through and have everybody that's on the panel right now. All I need you to do is say your name and your title, and then I'll go through the background. So go ahead. We'll start with Dory. Go ahead.
Dory Kong, you call me when your dragonfly doesn't work, but we all know what's going on with that. Let's not talk about it. Uncomfortable. Oh, and Mike Gleeson was my video dad for a long time, so that's going to be good stories later on.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Mike Gleeson, Stanford.
Go ahead, Brad.
Brad Helton, UCF.
And then last but not least, go ahead.
Scott, Kansas State football.
Fantastic. J-Mac, I mentioned this at the very beginning of this. He's going through some stuff right now, and he's going to do his best to make it on the call at whatever time he tries to make it on. I'm still going to acknowledge him through the backgrounds and whatnot and talk a little bit on his behalf. But outside of that, you can contact him if you need to know further stuff. But we'll be welcome to grab him at any point he decides to come in, okay? So before we all get started, I'm going to go through a little bit of the background of everybody. I asked everybody to send me some nice bullet points on everything. So Dory, she's 20 years in the industry, video coordinator at Menlo College, assistant video coordinator, Stanford football under Mike Gleeson, global operations tech for ESPN, video coordinator at Old Dominion, video coordinator at Hawaii for 4 years, and currently at Dragonfly Athletics in customer support. Now, Scott, he's got 31 years in the industry. He started as a student assistant in '89 and hasn't looked back. He manages the world of coaching video for the football team, as well as being involved in weekly production projects that are mostly seen internally, but also does support projects in on the public display boards in the stadium and on social media. He has also been involved in a multitude of facility projects and provides AV support to the football complex. Now, he also has a handful of very cool titles, certificates, and trophies over the years by his peers in the Big 12 and CSVA, including this past year as Video Coordinator of the Year in the Big 12. And he's thankful for all of them, but he knows it takes a village to support the football program, and much credit goes to his assistants and his student assistants. Mike Gleeson, 38 years in the industry. He was an intern for the New Orleans Saints in the summer of '82 and '83. He was the assistant film and video director for 3 seasons in '85 to '88. He was in Atlanta with the Falcons for '89 and '90. He was with the Sacramento Surge as the video director in '91 and '92. And finally, he's currently at Stanford, 1993 all the way up until now. Longest tenured place. Bear with me. Okay, Brad Helton had recently served for UCF, but he also served 20 seasons at Marshall. Now, his job is to handle all aspects of coaching video for the program. Did the same thing at Marshall. He's been named the Conference Video Coordinator of the Year as selected by his peers 8 times. Was also honored with the Bob Mady National Video Coordinator of the Year Award for his work in the 2002-2003 season. Now, prior to his arrival at Marshall, he was the member of the production department at the local CBS affiliate in Huntington, West Virginia. He's a graduate of East Tennessee State with a Bachelor's of Science in Mass Communications. Now, while there, he was the color commentator for women's basketball broadcasts, and before transferring, he also played 1 year of college baseball at Gardner-Webb. And he's a 1988 graduate of Virginia High School in Bristol, Virginia. He also is a very well-known still photographer and has been hired on numerous occasions to shoot pro and celebrity golf tournaments and various NFL events. And he also has 2 children, Ryan Chandler and Haley Elizabeth, with his wife, Tara. Great. Okay, now, last but not least, again, whenever he decides to come in, J-Mac, he's currently at Central Michigan in his 10th year. His full name is Jay McDowell. He oversees all of Coach's video and the post-production for the Chippewas. He was named the MAC Video Coordinator of the Year in 2020 by CSVA and his peers. He also won his first Video Coordinator of the Year award in 2000 while at ULM. Him and his wife Misty have a son, Dakota, and a daughter, Mia. Okay. Now, one person that I didn't include on the promotional adverts, but I felt was I wanted to kind of almost have as a surprise, right? To be able to be on the call, but she's not here right now for very good reasons, is Betsy Chapman from Media Right. She is actually currently picking up her husband from the hospital, and he finally gets to go home from his stint in the hospital. So we're very happy for her. But I just wanted to give her a shout out in terms of what Betsy has done for the industry and us. She serves pretty much every single person that has done video in the country. Her commitment to individualized service and her company's commitment to really getting to know the people behind the cameras, that's something to be commended. She also wanted me to commend Brenda Gibb and all of the girls back in her office, okay? So what I'm gonna do for her is I'm gonna send out this new catalog by Media Right, okay? And then I'm just gonna go ahead and read a little bit of her story. She's worked for some of the most respected professionals in the video world, listening, learning, and selling. Their dream was to be able to work together as a team early in their careers to start a new company that will combine their knowledge of recording media to smart buying. They offer professional service, but also courteous to their individualized customer base. Now, I'm just letting you know, if you don't have her in your Rolodex, and if you ever need anything related to video, I can't recommend her enough. Most people see her at CSVA. She's known to also throw a heck of a party. Just know that I can't recommend her enough to get anything that you need. Okay. So I just wanted to acknowledge her. She can't be on the call again. She she's doing something for her husband that is all good stuff. So if there's any questions about anybody, go ahead and send them to me send them to the chat or speak out loud. I'll ask for a couple brave souls. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and let every person on the panel bounce around, talk a little bit about their background or whatever they want to talk about. And after that, we're just going to go straight into Q&A. All right. So we'll just start with Dory, then we'll go to Mike, then we'll go to Brad, then we'll go to Scott. Okay. And if J-Mac cops in, he'll go at the very end. But go ahead and take a few minutes, talk a little bit about your background and et cetera, whatever you want to talk about, and then we'll go right into Q&A. So go ahead and make sure your stuff is muted.
Okay. So coming out of high school, I was more of a camera person. I did a lot of community access programming through my video classes. We did a daily or a monthly, whatever, whether it was school related things or whatever. And so when I got to college, I actually went to school hoping to work in a control room or some type of like studio environment. But I get to school and they didn't have any current equipment and they didn't even have a current teacher. Then I got approached by my coach that Doug knows and Mike knows, this coach, Fred Giudici, and they needed someone to shoot their games. And I didn't know anything about football, which has come up in previous conversations. Are you a football person first or are you a media person first? And I was a media person first, and I didn't know what I was doing or where I knew where I was supposed to point the camera, but everything else was new to me. But after doing it for 3 years and having to learn without any guidance or very little guidance, it was encouraging that I did something new and tried something new that opened up a whole bunch of doors. And when I got to the point for graduation, I had to figure out, well, what am I going to do? And Fred introduced me to Gleeson. I went over to his office for an interview, and I was 21 or 22 years old, and I was scared meeting this big time video coordinator for the first time, and I didn't talk much, and does she even have a personality? Like, and but between the relationship that my coach had with Mike and my skill set, process of elimination, I was able to get on Mike's staff for the season, and that was 4 seasons later. That led to having Stanford on my resume led to ESPN. One of the hiring managers at ESPN really liked me. So that was about 3 years. Then I really wanted to get back into the football side of life. And I had met Paul at the '09 Jacksonville CSVA, and we became friends, and he's smiling over there right now, and his heart's all full. I was like, oh. So I even brought my friend, and she got to meet everybody, all the video people, and because she had done video in college also, and she understood what was going on. Got on with Paul for a season, then Hawaii happened, and so I was able to move home, and it worked out for me personally because I got to be with my grandmother, then now recently my mother, as they've gone through their health issues. And I mean, and I've talked about this before individually, like some people might say, oh, Hawaii was your dream job, and aren't you so excited to be home? And again, frankly, it was a nightmare. The travel is horrendous. It's a different culture here. It's a different football culture in Hawaii versus what you might expect or experience on the mainland. So there was a lot of adjustment to be made, but I felt confident in what I could do as a video coordinator, that I could bring what I knew to the program, and hopefully that would pay off at the end. I wasn't retained, and then I was brought on by Kirk at Dragonfly, and that's worked out well so far. And I mean, that's the gist of the Dory story.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Next, Mike.
Well, it was great having Dory on staff for the time that we did. So we are video family, so to speak. But actually, going back to the beginning, Doug Oakland from LSU, his dad and my dad met through work. And I actually would work the New Orleans Saints games at San Francisco 49ers in Candlestick when I was in high school. So I've known Doug since he was 12. And we've been longtime family friends for all that time. But through working for the Saints, doing 16 millimeter, that led to the Miami Dolphins job, which was 16 millimeter, then on to Betacam, which then led to the Atlanta Falcons full time. I was going to school in Sacramento and working in the NFL in the off season. So I was driving cross country twice a year from California to either Miami or Atlanta. And then Atlanta led to the World League, and then that folded, and the World League led to Stanford. So been very fortunate, learned on the job, studied business management. I joked that if I could have played a guitar, I would have majored in music. I did not like school. I did not excel, just a B student. And I've been fortunate with the people I've worked with, and the opportunities that I've had, and the friendships, the great friendships that I have now because of this job. The hardships, they're there. It's not for everybody, but most of these guys all know my story, so I won't bore you with anything more than that.
Awesome. Great. Go ahead, Brad. Next.
I actually got into video and football by applying for a softball assistant coaching position. And that didn't work out. Wasn't the right fit. And the broadcasting on my degree, on my resume, said, we didn't have that. Marshall didn't have a full-time video guy there. Coach said, "You interested in working?" So I was working part-time at a TV station doing production, and I said, "Sure. I'm young. I'll do it. I'll do it a couple of years, see what's going on." And 26 years later, I'm still here. It's been, from, like Mike said, back in the days, I was doing film work, darkroom stuff, still photography. Most of my stuff was still photography, and the video degree was a background. It was something to fall back on. I just happened to fall back into a career, fortunately. Fortunate to get in at the time I did, when you were able to see the great changes in the technologies and how quickly they came, and being out on the front of it. It was like every 18 months it would change. We went from tape to digital to film exchange through the airports to couriers to the internet, and it's like every 18 months, 2 years, we were changing completely from what we had done before. So I've been through 5 different editing systems and multiple coaching staffs, and the only thing constant is change.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And last but not least, go ahead, Scott.
So I got involved with video back in high school, back, I don't know, 84, 85 million years ago. A good friend of mine, Kent Welch, grew up with him, kindergarten to college. That's how I know him. But he said, hey, there's this instructor that's teaching this class. It's radio and television. You might like it. Give it a shot. And that was my junior year. Junior year, loved it. My senior year, I figured out every angle to basically have every class, every hour of the day be associated with the radio and television class. Most certainly was the nerd pushing the TVs down the hall, but got involved in some great internal productions with the high school internal news and radio, and then had the opportunity to direct some local origination stuff as well, just through the class. The goal after high school was to get a communications degree and eventually get a job in what at the time was called being a vote broker, which was basically being one of those sick individuals that helps change your minds on who to vote for during the election years. I thought that was pretty cool. The Eilert family has a background in politics and was always interested in that. Got to my first, what I thought was going to be the first choice of school. Got there and they literally had, this was on a visit, they literally had 2 turntables and a microphone. Those 2 turntables were like circa 1930. And so I scrapped going to that school and went to a junior college and worked my ass off, going to school, living in mom's basement, and working every job I could. Kent Welch, who got me involved in the high school interests, said, come to Kansas State. You're going to love it. They've got a great communications program. So I coordinated a bunch of meetings for campus. A weeknight after work, drove to Kansas State, got to the location where my buddy Kent was living, Sigep House. Yeah, there you go, Brad. Sigep House, and he said, hey, we're going to Kites. It's Spoo's birthday. Don't know who Spoo is, but it's his birthday, so we're going to Kites. Don't know what Kites was. I missed every meeting that I had the next day, and chose Kansas State University as my school of choice to continue my education. Drink to that. At Kansas State, was involved in just about anything that I could. My wife, who's on the call, can attest to that. That we had, she was the one that seeked me out, and I was the one that said, hey, I ain't got time for chicks. I'm a video nerd. But was working at the Kappa Delta house, and a buddy of mine who's an equipment manager said, hey, this guy, Bill Snyder, he's coming to town and he needs a video department. And he needs someone to shoot some video. And I don't know anything about, doing that. I know video, but I don't know anything doing that. And he says, well, it pays $5 an hour. And I said, heartbeat, I'll do it. Back then, minimum wage was like $3.25. But so got involved with that program in '89, and as a student, graduated with an RTV degree, had some experience with the college radio, which I thoroughly enjoyed. My wife would drive me over to the radio station at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, drop me off to start my day. She was probably the only listener of the program at that time as well. But after I graduated, went home, sat in the parents' basement, couldn't quite figure out why I wasn't earning six figures, applied for every single job. But one of the contacts that I'd made, I was rather persistent on. That was with the Kansas City Chiefs. With the Chiefs, I had the opportunity to work for a season, 91 season. After that season was over, I worked as a broadcast engineer with Channel 9. Broadcast engineer means that you know what button to push, but you don't know why you're pushing it or what happens. You just know that you're supposed to push the button. Worked there, got a phone call from the ops guy at Kansas State. The guy said, hey, come work for Bill because we need a new video coordinator. Started the position in '92 and have never looked back. Never regretted the decisions that I made to work in the world of coaching video, and greatly appreciate my wife and my family for providing me the opportunity to do what I love to do. That's it.
That's awesome. Now, thank you for everybody that has made it on this call. Like I mentioned before, I have a pile of questions that I asked my students beforehand that they wanted to ask you that would most benefit the group. It's a mix of both, easygoing questions and stuff that might be a little bit harder. Don't feel like everybody has to answer it. If it's, sufficiently answered, then we can keep moving on. We want to grab as much knowledge from you guys as possible, okay? So the first question that I have before we go into ones that people want to ask in person is, if you could go back and do it all over again, would you change anything? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, most certainly. And I've mentioned this before in open group, and is that I would have learned the social business. I would have not just stayed in my office and done my job. I would have spent more time trying to get to know the coaches, trying to get to know the players. Early on in my career, it was most certainly about, I got to get this done. And where the day truly was, a 15-hour day, and that your Sunday and your Monday was really one day. But I really wish that I would have recognized sooner that I have the opportunity to create some really neat and really lasting relationships with some really neat people. And that's what I would do differently. It doesn't have anything to do with technology. It has everything to do with building relationships.
That's great. And everybody else, don't be afraid to jump in as you feel.
I think Scott hit on one of the most important things, and I've been fortunate enough in my career to take what you learned at the SIG Up House and networking, and not networking yourself to promote yourself, but to get the lay of the land, to talk to your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator. I changed coaches so many times at Marshall, and then again here at UCF. It's like a constant revolving door of personalities, and assessing your staff for who they are and how they are and why they're that way is of great value. Knowing that this coach, knowing their preferences, knowing what their likes are outside of football. I spent more time talking to Rick Minner, who was the head coach at Cincinnati, who was my defensive coordinator, talking about the Cubs and the Cardinals, than we did talking about the X's and the O's and the reports and the cut-ups. Stuff like that, those relationships now, as those guys have moved on and retired out, those relationships are still there because none of your old coaches are calling you to see how the cut-ups are doing. Those relationships are still strong and they're valuable.
Great.
I would agree also with Scott. Would I do it again differently? Probably not. I feel like everything has happened for a reason. I know when I started with Mike, I said, let's see where we are in 5 years, and it was 4, and Jim came in, and the ESPN opportunity came up, and it was, I'd become a full-time assistant, but I was making the same wage as an administrative assistant. So for the San Francisco Bay Area, which was high, but not as high as it is now, I was looking at the salary going, do I stay in a safe place and keep just enjoying my experience, or do I push myself and move on, even making a lateral move money-wise, but I'll learn other things. And it was rough over there, but ultimately it was the better decision for my career. And then I leave, and they said, by the way, that we've raised the salary to a professional P1 rating, and it pays 40. I'm like, oh, thanks. I've been making 13.5, and now I could have made 40 for 1 year at least, but the relationship part is important, because that's one thing is, as I got more comfortable being in the office and as my role as Mike's assistant, there was a lot of times I would be left there because Mike would be at softball or the baseball office or walking through basketball, and he built relationships with everybody in the department. Anything with an on-off switch became Mike's territory, even though he was the football video guy. And a lot of times I'd be left there, and I'd have some lady from administration going, could I borrow the projector cord? And I'm like, I talked to Mike, and he said I could have the projector cord. And I'm like, well, fuck, there's like 10 projector cords. I mean, is it a power cord? Is it a cat? Is it for the internet? Is it a VGA cable or whatever other methods of displaying from point A to point B? Like, I don't know. And so I had to take ownership of my role as the assistant. And I'm like, as I built relationships with those people, it was like, sure, here you go, or bring it back, whatever, sign out sheet that no one ever signed out on. But I had an opportunity to take, again, ownership of my role of managing the office, because I'd call him and I'd talk to him 3 hours later after lunch. Like, hey, that lady asked for, who? So I had to do something so I didn't lose my mind just being in the office. And then I took that idea of building the relationships to talking to other people at ESPN in different departments, or going to different meetings as able. And then Hawaii for sure also was getting to know, like, offering help to women's basketball or volleyball. Like, hey, can I help to, whether it's show value or just show that I care about the other sports, and not just like football's number one, but hey, we've got some equipment, we're not using it right now. If we can work out a deal, we can maybe make you guys better or more efficient or more successful, and that helps everyone. And yeah, the communication part is really important at any job, and especially when you're the football video person.
Great. Mike, anything to add when you look back?
No, just really appreciative of the opportunities that I had, and relationships really are key. My dad was the one that got me introduced to Irby, Doug's dad. And from there, it was me meeting the assistant with the Dolphins, and that led to scrimmaging and getting to know the Falcons. And then that gave me enough experience to be able to apply for the job in the World League. And then the World League gave me the opportunity to work with a coach that was then at Stanford. And then I had Robert Inagi with the 49ers to be able to, so these relationships were very integral. It's, you know, my old boss with the Dolphins, what did he say? Always be a professional, do your best, and never outdress me. and he wore flip-flops and t-shirts, and we were the flip-flop boys. We got tan lines on our feet from being out in the sun all the time. But now just making the most of it. And sometimes you have to follow your opportunities. You know, I'm from California, but I went to New Orleans, I went to Miami. I didn't know when I would be back, but I just had a gut instinct that job was something I wanted to do. And I probably was at Stanford for a couple of years before I started thinking, this might be my career. You know, it took me 7 years to go through college because alternating the last 4 between football in the fall and school in the spring. But getting to know the people that I have and being able to reach out and call and for a favor, and then being happy to help, because you never know who you might need a favor from or however you can help. So yeah, I think that you know, there's so many different varying degrees that we've talked about over the years in different groups and such, that just the longer you're in it, the more you see. And you know, I try to tell people, get that, you know, as Brad was talking about the relationship with his D coordinator, who's now a head coach, or the ADs that he now knows at other schools, be able to see them eye to eye. If they don't see you as an equal of sorts, I try to teach the people I work with, you work with the coaches, not for the coaches, because sometimes you will get the doorknob coach that does not see you as an equal. And, you know, you're not ever going to be an equal for pay or accolades. But when it comes to respect, it's like, it's hard. Sometimes it just comes with age and experience and reading people. There's some people you can't even, you know, look them in the eye because they're looking right through you, and they're not going to hear you. And you just have to figure out a way to make that work. So there are those challenges, but the more you do it, it's not quite a numbers game. But you know, I'm on my 6th head coach at Stanford and probably 10th or 11th overall, and you survive the bad and you appreciate the good. And so, but I do like the idea of 1-year rule. I keep throwing that out. Don't make any life decisions until you've been through whatever it is, the season or your relationship with someone in that season, until you've been through 1 year, because a lot of people don't know what goes on and in that in what we do. And you might be lying to yourself, or the other person just may not realize it, what it all means. And you know, the whole thing can come crashing down in November of that first season. But it's like, well, at least I didn't marry her. Well, I did. And then it came crashing down. Whoops. That's where the 1-year rule came from. So anyway, yeah, as you know, we're all learning, and it's great that we have each other to lean on and share with and to help out. So that may be
awesome. Thank you, Mike. Now making his fashionably late debut, as always, Mr. Jay McDowell. He's on the line. I just want you to say hi to everybody as we continue the Q&A. We're all thinking of you, so just go ahead and say hi to everybody and what position you have at CMU.
Guys, I'm hoping you guys can hear me. I can't. I look across this panel right here, and y'all just have to bear with me, okay? I see some people on this panel. Mike, I just met you for the first time a few years ago in Cincinnati. Buddy, I got more love and respect for you than you'll ever know, and I've only met you one time. And yeah, you know, and I got Brad Helton sitting down there. Hell, Brad filmed me playing. That's how far we go back. I still have that picture. Now, they won. Marshall won that game. God damn it. But he was filming that game. And in fact, that's the game, Brad. You don't know this. That's the game that started my career, because that's the one I got hurt that game. That was my 4th concussion. Here I am. I'm the video guy now. I got started in this with my stepdad. Well, he's my dad. I lost him right before the Idaho Bowl a couple years ago with cancer, and he taught mass comm. I remember running up and down. I learned to shoot on an old school Ikegami camera, 3/4-inch deck. I'm gonna go back a minute, where your job as the kid, you got to carry the 3/4-inch deck, and you had to carry the microphone. My dad got to shoot the game. I got to run the film, run the reels with the NFL down there in the dome. And this has been, I'm pushing, you said 20 years. Hell, I'm knocking on the door at 28 doing this damn job. And I have met some of the most amazing people that do this for a living. And some of the guys that are coming up in this business, I'm hoping we can, we get them trained the right way. Dory, Dory, nothing but love and respect for you. And we all know you're going to land nothing but. And like I told you the other day when we talked, by God, if I had a job, if I had somewhere, I would hire you right here on the spot, no questions asked. And so far as Jesse, I don't know how it's possible, but how do you get uglier? I'm just trying to figure this shit out. I mean,
it's a talent. It's a talent.
Yeah, but I started a long time ago, just like everybody else, just like Mike and Brad and Scott. Oh, good. Hey, Scott, man, how the hell are you doing, buddy? Where you drove, you got your ass in the car and you drove halfway somewhere and you swapped film, and that's how you did film. You stayed up all night. You'd wake up on game day, and if you were lucky, you got to go to bed Tuesday night. If you were lucky, and this business is something else, guys, and I don't have to tell anybody on this call about that. I obviously going through a little rough patch right now. This is my crossroads. I am sitting at my crossroads right now. I just went from, I still went from being in the weight room 4 days a week, still killing it like I was now. And now I'm sitting in a position right now that it's borderline. I might be wheelchair bound. I don't know. It's bad. I'm in a really bad situation, and but that ain't gonna stop me. I ain't gonna do that. You guys know I'm gonna continue to fight with everything I got and give you guys everything I got. Doug, how are you doing? I met you once or twice when we were out at Colorado, buddy. Nothing but love and respect. You got Brian over there from East, from over in Eastern. You got some. I think we got a good thing going here, guys. And like I said, almost 30 years doing this. I figured I got another solid 20, 25 left in me. I hope I got another solid 20, 25 left in me. And I don't plan on going anywhere. I plan on being right here with you. I'm hoping I can establish I would like to try to establish the. This is my personal opinion. I think the word family is tossed around a whole lot around college football, and I don't think it really means a whole hell of a lot, to be honest with you. And the simple fact is, you got the head coach. Oh, we're family. $10 million. He ain't family no more. These guys are on this phone call right here. That's what I got a feeling I could call Mike up right now and he'd help me any way I can. He'd get help me, no questions asked. And that's kind of that. Then that's where I'm at. And Jimmy, you're on your way, brother. You're on your way to being, you're doing a good thing with this stuff. You really are. Good Lord, Scott, you've been around. I really think before God said, let's play football, he asked Scott, hey, could you get the hell out of the way so we can play some football? I really believe that in all my heart. We'd like to play football. Scott, could you please move? You've been doing it for so long. I hope I can offer whatever has been instilled in me from my dad, from Sean Hollister, the Brad Heltons, the Mike, all you guys, that I can help install this into the next clan that's coming in. Try to do whatever I can do to make us better. And then I'm down And I think you guys know that. I'm down for whatever. I'm not afraid to work. Work don't scare me. Never has. It never will. So I'm 28 years in this profession, and I've loved every minute of it. And I, honest to God, can say I don't think I've worked a day in my life. I really don't. I love. If someone would have told me, "Hey, J Mac, you want to run the camera and watch football?" Are you shitting me? Are you serious? You want me to play with computers and watch football? Shit. Sign me up twice. But
Well, hey Jay, I'm thankful you were able to make it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And we're gonna grab as much knowledge as we can from all of you. Now, just kind of going down the line, might be a little bit lighter hearted question, but when have you guys felt the most, let's go with out of touch or dated when it comes to student assistants nowadays? What do you do to overcome the barriers when it comes to age or generation? Whoever wants to jump in first.
One of my student assistants who dates my daughter just walked out.
Oh, I got that. Let's look forward to. Great.
Yeah, you do. Gleeson, you taught me?
Yeah. Well, so the thing is having kids help, because Claire, my daughter, when I started at Stanford, she was 1. She's 28 now. She went from being the cute little kid running around making noises in the office to, hey, Gleeson, who's the girl in the volleyball outfit? And, oh, that's my 14-year-old daughter. And no, you won't. And now she calls the players kids. Oh, those kids. They're so cute. So the players, the people I work with, they keep me young. I don't bridge very well. I'm lucky enough to absorb with the people that are around me. I think on the inside, I feel young. When I go to stand up or sit down, I feel very old. But I joke with people that I'm like the guy in the movie Highlander. I've been told not to get attached to people because I will outlive them all professionally. And so when people come into my office, I love them up and they leave me and my heart's broken and I'm still the Highlander guy at the end of the hall. There can only be one. And so we haven't come to that part of our career yet, but people around, I think the staff, the kids, the players, they keep me in touch. But luckily I don't have to be completely in touch. I don't do highlight videos anymore. So otherwise it'd be Huey Lewis and Bruce Springsteen and, or Todd McCarthy had to do at Georgia Tech with Coach O'Leary. I think they had to do the Walk of Life from Dire Straits every week, whether they won or lost. They had to do it to the same song. So anyway, everyone has their blessing and their curses, but that's enough for me.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else for good? Okay. Now this might be a little bit more geared towards Scott's guess, but what's your take on relationships in the industry? How do you find the right one? How do you know it's the right one? How did you get them to convince you? How did you convince them? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, my guest had to leave. She is, she's currently in the hospital, knee, since January. So I think she's getting discharged here in a couple hours, which means we'll need to cut this short so I can leave, pick her up. But so you had mentioned relationships, and so I'm guessing that it has to do with significant other or your significant other, your office mate. I'll go with office mate because that's a little more tricky because sometimes you're just going by what's on paper and not by how they hold hands on a long walk on the beach. But you'll most definitely finding that perfect office mate. You want to find someone that has common interests as you. someone that you want to most definitely go out and have a beer with and talk about worldly things. But at the same time, you want to have someone that is different than you, someone that can challenge you, and someone that may have a little different perspective on life and on how to solve problems. If you have two great problem solvers in the room, then you can do just about anything. So I'll take it the angle of your office spouse.
That's awesome. Anybody else, whether it's an office spouse or an actual spouse?
Well, actually, when I started working for Gleeson, I was so young, and I had, since, like I said, I had to figure a lot of stuff out on my own before. Like, I was in like a vacuum at Menlo, just because it was Division III. It was amazing that I was even a consistent student doing video for them, and that I had half an idea of what was going on compared to you show up somewhere. I'm like, can I get your end zone video? And we've all seen that end zone video. Like, why is there 8 missing plays or whatever the problem is? And so when I finally got to Stanford, I was overwhelmed because now you're dealing with a computer. Now you're dealing with actual software that you can intercut, not using Final Cut Pro and like slicing off your play and dragging and dropping it to make your ODK cut up and then having to print that to tape. You actually had a software that you could mark and whatever. And Mike knew so much and had all of the experiences that you all have heard over the last few Zooms and today for sure, that I just wanted to be immersed in what Mike had to say. And so I followed him around maybe a little bit too closely, but I enjoyed being around him, and he was very kind to me and taught me a lot. And we did have things in common, like other than friends, there were a lot of TV shows that we would watch in the office, whether it was kind of while we were editing or eating lunch or downtime or whatever. And we've been able to base our friendship off of mentorship and just prolonged knowing each other. But there are enough things that we enjoy or find things interesting or amusing that has kept us kept our relationship going. And of course, how much I care for his daughter Claire, and she's a lot. So but I care for him as a person, and I care for his family. And it's talking about building relationships. It's talking about that office person. And then Olivia too, like who's at Hawaii now. Like, she and I are very different in a lot of ways, but we were able to work together on a common goal. And I gave her a lot of I don't want to say I gave her a lot of leeway to do so, because that's not fair to her, but she had a lot of initiative to take on those tasks. So I'll stop before I go too far off on some weird tangent. But yeah, finding a person that you could work with, like my students got along with her, I feel like a little bit maybe better than me, or they had a different relationship with her. And at the end of the day, we got practice shot. We were able to serve our coaches, get our work done, and go home. So yeah.
Awesome. No, you're good. Now, is there a brave soul that wants to ask a question in person to our panel? Anybody, whether it's one or all of them?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So I'm Josh Phillips from Penn State. I just was wondering, for everybody on the panel, what is your biggest suggestion for somebody that's like up and coming and wants to become and has like a future goal to become a video coordinator?
Great question.
Yeah. I'm going to go with, to come up to be in the video world. My advice is learn as much about this business as you possibly can learn. I'm not talking, learn athletics, because athletics is a very unique world within itself. Because it's its own beast, and that's kind of what I always did. I made it a habit to learn how did football operations work, how did video operations work, how the hell did the equipment room work. Just trying to make yourself almost to that point of, like, we're sitting in a situation right now where you're not. We know we were probably all secured for job wise, but it's not. We all know maybe not. But if you can really learn every aspect, not only in the video world, learn everything you can learn from these guys that are on this panel, because these are some of the greatest minds in the business right here. And that would be my advice. Learn as much about this profession, just in athletics in general, as you possibly can absorb.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I think for everything we have now and all the technology we've got with the Zoom calls, these kind of group discussions happened at CSVA. They happened after a long day of meetings, or running the death march, or after we had casino night. These were the discussions when I was young, starting in this, and I didn't have the luxury of doing it in college or knowing it exists, so I just kind of fell in. I was the head video coordinator immediately, and boom, off and running. Let's learn how this goes. So when we came to CSVA, I had the luxury of having Scott Eilert and Mike Gleeson and Ken Norris and John Kovacic and Mike Arias and Chad Bunn and all these guys that had done it for years and had already gone through those. And I was lucky enough to be invited into those rooms, but smart enough to sit back and keep my mouth shut and absorb it all and kind of learn what they did. Back in the day when we exchanged film, when we sent actual videotapes out, you had to talk to people. You had to talk to other video guys. There was constant communication. Now there's not as much communication. Well, in those communications were questions. How are you doing this? Or how are you doing that? Mike and I were on the same Omega system way back in the day. And we were also too proud to call support because of the way we were trained. If we had a problem, we started on the East Coast, and I called Billy Vizzini or Rick Bagby. And if they didn't have the answer, we moved to Brian Bray at Houston, and we moved to John Kovacic at Wisconsin. And then we moved our way west, and we got to Bill Wong and Ken Norris and Mike Gleeson. And by the time we got to the West Coast, we didn't have an answer. We called support. But in the course of trying to solve the problem amongst ourselves, we had talked to 6 or 7 people. And during the season, while cutups were setting and running to tape, you had time. So we talked. And you talked to people that you hadn't talked to. There were running call lists of people I called every day, every week, just to keep involved in it. We didn't have chat rooms, and we didn't have all the luxuries. We picked up the phone and we called and we talked. And I think that's the downside of this profession, is you're kind of insulated into the room you're in, as opposed to getting out and finding out how somebody else has done it. So I still call 2 of my OGs. I call Darby and I call Christian at Kentucky all the time. They did building rebuilds before I did. I haven't done one in 10 years. What did you like? What didn't you like? What would you do different? And they went through it with me when we were doing it, but it's changed. And I wanted to know why, and firing a text doesn't solve the problem for me. I wanted to be in touch with them. I wanted to see how they were doing. I wanted to see if they were doing anything different. And that's something, there's no reason in this business I should have a relationship as good as I do with Mike Gleeson, who is half a world away. But I know at any time I need something, those relationships were built at a time when we had to. And I spent tons of time on the phone with Billy Vizzini daily. And I was probably a little more of a hothead back in the day and wanted to blow up, and Billy always talked me off the ledge and kept me from blowing the building up. I knew if I called Mike, he'd make me laugh, and I'd forget what was bothering me. When Mike said, he used to, and Scott said it used to be 15, 16-hour days, those weren't easy days. And, it wasn't walking uphill to school in the snow both ways, but it was, you know, Sunday became Monday, became Tuesday. And back to the relationship issue, finding someone who understands what you do. My wife is our director of academics here. I am so fortunate that our schedules flip-flop perfectly. I finish the season, she goes into the spring semester. I go into spring ball, everything's cruising. We finish the season, we get to the summer, we got 2 weeks off together, we have a vacation, and then once we hit July 15th, she knows, don't ask where I'm at, don't ask when I'm coming home, because it's just not going to be, you know, it's just over years of doing it together. I know when she's doing scheduling and she's doing advising, not to mess with her. And she knows when we're getting ready for a bowl game or we're getting ready to pack and they're going on a trip, she knows those nights she's not going to see me. And that over time, there are times that even after this many seasons that she gets frustrated, and she works in athletics. So we've raised 2 kids through this. I have one working for his 4th year for me now. And it's just there's a give and a take, and there's communication, and it's all the same things that make you successful in the office. It works with relationships as well. It's finding those people you trust, who understand you, who support you, that make it work. And some days it doesn't work as well as others.
That's awesome.
You know, Brad, that's a big part of this business that I really miss. I reach out to the Mac guys as much as I can, just to say hi. You know, what's a phone call? The hell with a text message. Just, hey, what's a phone call? Shoot the shit 5-10 minutes. Just say, hey, you know, how's the hammer hanging? You know, that's the part of the business that I personally miss, because it was personal back then. I mean, good God, you and I go back, like I said, a long time. And I look forward to every year getting to see you, you know, stuff like that. And it was fun. And I miss that. And I really hope some way, somehow we can bring that back on board somehow, because, you know, you got a problem, like you said, you just call tech support and they fix it. And it kind of pisses you off a little bit, because they just fix it they fix it instead of telling you how to fix it. And that's the part that really irritates me. I want to know the hows, the whys, the do's. You know, why am I pushing this button? What does it do exactly? Don't just do it. Tell me. So, well, plus I give you a buttload of money. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. But, you know, that's a part of the business I do miss. I'm glad you brought that up, man.
It's a great point. And I mean, that's why hopefully things like this help reconnect people face to face too. So again, that's why I appreciate you guys being on. Kind of stemming off of what Josh said, question wise also, is what are some of the biggest mistakes a young video person can make as they come up in the industry? What have you noticed about young people nowadays?
Well, can I
feel like,
wait, Dory, I'm your old boss, so I get to jump you. I get to jump on this one, because I gotta. Oh, and first, Jay, you're my thoughts and prayers, whatever it is.
Thank you, sir.
Hope you hang in there, and you need anything, you call. We need to catch up anyway, but appreciate you, and I hope it all works out and you get through what you got to get through. Okay, so there you go. I do have to work with my offensive coordinator here. He just called me, but what I do want to say, probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was saying yes to everything. So you got to get strong enough and organized enough to say no, or at least say, if there's 10 things you want me to do, what's the first most important one? Because you don't want to work on number 7 and have me be really irritated that, well, coach, I gave you this one. He's like, well, I didn't care about that one. So you have to be able to pre-qualify and be able to look the coach in the eye and say, I will get to these, and have the ability to say they're not all going to happen at the same time. So setting realistic, it took me a while because I might be afraid of the coach, or I may not think he respects me, or I'm not doing my job because I'm not doing everything, whatever it might be. Having the courage, the strength, and the experience to say, coach, okay, you want these 3 things. What's the most important? So I give you what you want first. And You know, I've gotten arguments with coaches, and it's like, which one do you want first? He goes, I want them all. I go, I understand that, you little doorknob. Which one do you want first? And if you keep up the attitude, it might not get there right away. So depending on who you're talking to, but just be strong enough to be able to ask that question so that you're not wasting your time with something they don't care about as much. And any coach that says, I want anything and everything, doesn't know what he's doing. And you gotta, there's nothing worse than doing something just because. So back in the old Betacam tape days, we used to make all these cut-ups, and you could open up the door and you could see where the anchor of the videotape, the machine could not rewind it back to the silver of the anchor of the Sony Betacam tape. So at the end of the week, we could open up the door and say, okay, they didn't watch this one. And we could find out every single edit that they didn't watch. And it's like, why are we spending the time doing this? And so I'm not afraid of the work, like Jay says. It's just, I hate working for nothing. So pretty soon, hey, I've shot walkthroughs and just stood there and moved the camera and did everything but hit record just to make it look like I was shooting it, because he wasn't going to watch it. So therefore I wasn't going to shoot it. So, you know, play the game how you want to play it, but save yourself a lot of pain and set those priorities so you meet the coach's expectations as soon as possible.
I can't tell you how many times when I was at Colorado there, Doug, what I used to do was, you know, you print the tape and you do your print out and you fold it up and you put it in the sleeve. Now I would take a piece of Scotch tape, and I would take that, you know, and tape the paperwork down to the inside of that sleeve, and then go give the tape to the coaches, you know, on Sunday night or whatever. And then I would come back in just to see how many seals of tape were broke on what they watched. And it used to piss me off so bad, because you would be up for 48 hours straight doing this shit, and they didn't, you know, and it would be like 2 tapes they would watch, you know. And that was just one of those little tricks I pulled, and I thought it was funny as hell, because I was like, you gotta be kidding me. They didn't watch this shit. I've got a piece of tape on it. They even break the seal. They even break the condom out. Are you kidding me? I mean, if you're going to screw me, go ahead and just screw me and be done with it. I mean, I don't care. I've been there, done it. At least spit in my face or something. Jesus. But just a lot of the little things like that. It's just, I remember doing that.
I had a coach my first season with Gleeson that didn't want to use his computer, and I had to make tapes of his cut-ups every week. And some days he got blank tapes just because I had the wrong deck routed or whatever. It was terrible. But I would say, as much as possible, understand, and Brad touched on it, Jay touched on it, Gleeson mentioned some stuff. Understand where we came from, and I'm a we coming in at the tape era. I didn't do film. I skipped that part just based on age and availability of equipment. But understand the analog days, because when I took a few years at Academy of Art to do grad school work, kind of in and around me working at Stanford, and also I did tape back at ESPN. Like, I had to edit, so the shows you see, like if there's a flash frame, if there's bad B-roll, they hit a freeze. I didn't have a computer to fix it. I had to either take that clip and slow it down. If there was a transition, that was a whole other issue. We had to maybe even play that clip back and run it back through the control room, and I had to match it up. There were so many different things you had to do, but understand how, like, why you have the technology you have now, because of what we had to deal with, or how things were done before, because it'll answer a lot of questions like, well, what equipment do you need to buy moving forward? Is a prosumer camera better than a better professional grade that costs more, or even a Walmart camera? Like, what can you get away with? Just understanding what you need for your program and what you can afford is important. But yeah, understanding why we're at this point, and even things like, hey, Oh, we're buying a new server. Yeah, 10 terabytes sounds great. Then you got 5 years of every extra video or every file. Oh, we're going to have a shared folder with all the coaches. And they put all kinds of weird bullshit on there. And then the video GA gets fired. I see this a lot, especially at the FCS level. And I'm like, you can buy an 8 terabyte drive for $200 now at Best Buy and just throw all your extra stuff on there. Oh, but we might need it. Well, why didn't you buy a 25 terabyte server or more or whatever? Oh, well, we couldn't afford it. Well, you need to figure that so educating yourself on like the long game of buying equipment and why you need that equipment is important.
Great. Thank you all. I'm asking for another in-person question before I continue down my list. Anybody brave? Another brave soul? In-person question? Okay. So one thing that we all face more and more nowadays is burnout, especially at the coordinator position. What kind of keeps you going? What keeps you inspired? What keeps you motivated to keep doing this? And what would you recommend to people that feel like they're going to burn out?
You know, honestly, for me, I have such a love for this business. Okay. I'm sure at some point in time I'm going to have enough and I'm going to walk away. I'm sure of that. But like I said, I haven't worked a day in my life, and I love, hell, I guess I'm one of the sick bastards. I love the grind. I love getting up on those long weeks, and you putting in those miserable hours, and you're killing yourself all week long, and you're seeing what happens on Saturday night, win or lose. Then you lose, you get to, what did we do wrong? Let's start over. You won, well, guess what? You're supposed to win. Who gives a shit? Move on. It's just, for me, it's just such a love for this profession. It's such a love for the people that are in this profession that I want to try to make better. That I don't know what I can do. I'm not saying by any means am I God's gift to this shit in any shape, fashion, or form. That's for damn sure. But I think I got enough in me for these young ones that are coming in that maybe I can point them in the right direction, saying, hey, if you stay this track right here, maybe that burnout don't come. But eventually, it will happen. And I think the burnout comes on a lot of us. If I got to do one more damn highlight video, I honestly, God, think I might blow up Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I really do. You have a season where you win one game, and you're supposed to make it like, really, that's I'd say that's probably the biggest. The job itself, the video part of it is the fun. It is what it is. It's that if you can get yourselves on a good quality highlight guy who understands, dramatic, who understands cinema, who understands lighting, who understands these things that you can teach, because hell, with the cameras nowadays, hell, you can shoot you can take your freaking iPhone out there and put together one hell of a highlight video without an iPhone, but that's just my opinion. I think that's where the biggest burnout is on the highlight video, because God knows, I'm sure everybody on this phone call has these same problems. You get that phone call from a player, hey, I need to get some video so I can get me a highlight video for my Twitter account. I don't give two rats ass about your Twitter account, buddy. All right? I'll help you get to the NFL. I'll help you make some money. I ain't here to get you laid on Saturday night. That ain't my job. But that's where I'm at. You ask, you got an honest answer.
I think you got to have other interests. I don't come home and watch football. I don't watch the NFL. I like football. I'm fairly decent at what we do. The analysis part of it I like a lot. I don't watch it when I come home. I don't imagine plumbers come home and watch plumbing shows. I mean, there's another, I know we're being recorded and J-Mac's the only one in the blue. So porn stars don't come home and watch porn. It just doesn't interest me. I can't watch a football game like a fan. I haven't been able to since 1995. I see things that fans don't see. I sat in the stands one game in the last 26 years, and I sat and picked the game apart like I was shooting it. It's of no interest. It's not fun for the people sitting with me. It's not fun for me watching it. I'll watch cooking shows or documentaries or call Gleeson and let him read softcore porn to me.
Wait. Here's you're missing it, Brad. I went to the Pac-12 championship game back in December, and I ran cards, and I was nervous because I thought I might break a card or drop it. So I didn't necessarily watch the whole game, but it's like, please don't let me screw up. There's people's jobs in here. It's like, wouldn't it be funny? Oh, whoops, no. But I know what you mean. Unless I'm getting paid to go to the game, I'm not going to go and watch it.
That's awesome. Now,
I say that it's true though. You have all these self-development classes. I'm with Brad over there because we have team psychologists come in and they go, if you're getting stressed out, what do you do for fun? And unless you have a real hobby that, I mean, you think about that. What do you do? Turn on TV, ESPN, watch somebody, then text them, oh, I saw your game, great game. But what do you do away from football or sports to make you relax? It's like Brad hit it on the head. You just got to have some kind of, that was a real hard question because, we bring an outside psychologist. What do you do to de-stress or, because you hear all these people, I want a real life. I want to have, be more flexible. I want to see more of life. And it's just, that's a very hard question. Most people say I watch TV and chill out or, whatever, but your family, but outside of all that, what do you do? I mean, some people, have different interests, like whatever, go hunting, go fishing, those kind of things. But that's a very tough question to ask if you don't already do it. And it's hard if you put in 18 hours at the office and come home to your family and still got to work on your family relationships. It's very difficult.
And these guys I don't think these guys understand, like some of us, that football used to end. Yeah, come up to the end of your seat, slide up, listen to me say this. Football used to end. It ended in December or January, and then you had 2 weeks of recruiting, and then you had a month off, and then you had 2 weeks of spring ball, and then you didn't see coaches. I'd see my head coach at the spring game when I first started doing this, and I would see him at football camp for the little kids in June, and I would see him on August 4th. That's it. If I wanted to go play golf 3 days a week, I went and played golf. If I wanted to go to the beach for a week, I went to the beach for a week. You used to have a life.
Yeah, but now you got double the amount of coaches, all these quality control guys trying to impress everybody, so they want you to put you on all these wild goose chases to do things.
This 3 months of being in quarantine is either going to dramatically jack up the divorce rate among coaches, or some of them are going to realize some of that stuff just isn't that relevant. I can do it from home. I can, there's no work-life balance in football anymore. There used to be. Those were the good old days. Yeah, we worked hard and we didn't have the technology, but common sense kind of ruled the day for most part. Get out of here. You look burned out.
The balance is missed, and it also depends on the head coach that you have. But there's sometimes when you have too much time, like we have in some cases right now, they're out there trying to reinvent the wheel. We've all worked for those guys that think that they're gonna do it right because the other guys were doing it wrong. It's like, oh, here we go. So I'm looking forward to getting back to work just to be in my environment, not having two damn little dogs barking behind me when I'm trying to work. But I've been very fortunate. I'm actually bored. I don't like to brag too hard about it because I'm very fortunate with our staff. They're doing log me in. They've been self-sufficient, and my coaches are people first, and that starts with Coach Shaw, who's one of the best ever. He's a person first, and then a very competitive person second. So they care. They really do care, and I'm very fortunate because I've been on staffs at Stanford that are not completely that way, or especially in the NFL. And I got to tell you, the NFL is not necessarily a destination for everyone. I was there for 10 years, but I was there early. And if you're there with some crappy teams and you're working 7 days a week, I'd tell people, go buy a shirt that says the Atlanta Falcons on it, and you're already better off than I am. And I work for the Atlanta Falcons because I'm working 7 days a week, 80 hours a week, there's no rest and there's no reward. So you got to find your own victories. And I tell people that, like here at Stanford, because the life cost of living is so expensive, it's like, if this is going to eat you alive, you need to leave. You can't let this eat you alive. You need to find your victories. And if you can find your victories, great, build on them. But if you can't, get out. Go find them someplace else. And it may not be in this. I'm lucky enough that I'm still in this. But one of these coaches is probably going to end up killing me, or whatever, because it is stressful and the whole thing. And you get to the point, it's like, I was talking to Tim Collins when we were doing the open exchange discussions. I said, do you ever feel like your head is full and you can't learn another thing? And we kind of laughed about it. It's like, if I want to be able to decide what I want for dinner, I have to throw away how to shoot practice. Yeah, I'll have to lose that short term because I'm not learning like I used to. So God bless you if you could take this stuff on and learn it. It's not easy, and you get to a point where it's like, oh great, another version of whatever update. It's like, how does that work? So we've all been there. But the great thing is, never be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to say I don't know, but then go out and find the answer. So I tell the guys, I don't know how to do that, but I'll go find out. So don't say yes to everything, once again, in all the different ways.
And part of that's also work-related stress you bring on yourself. It's fear of not asking the head coach because he might yell at me or he won't see it my way. Get over some of those things. Your relationship with your head coach is paramount. He's the one that's going to dictate down how your coordinators handle. Your head coach and your coordinators are your best friends as far as a work-life balance. If you're scared of them, they see it, they sense it. Most of them are former athletes. They know when there's blood in the water.
Yep.
You give into it, they're going to come get it.
That's been a true statement, especially past several years for me. I guess that came with the honor when you stand 6'5", 290 pounds. Not a lot of people give you a lot of shit, They just, you kind of walk in your office and you're kind of like, well, maybe we shouldn't piss this guy off. Like, maybe that's not such a good idea. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you just gotta, can't be afraid of those guys. I mean, look, there's a job you guys got to get done, and it's their ass. You got to get it done. And Jim McElwain's a pretty cool dude. Just so everybody that's out there has to work with him. He's been really amazing with me. He really has been. He's pretty much he reminds me a lot of Jeff Bauer. He just gives me the keys to the car and stays the hell out of my way. And that's kind of how it needs to be. He trust me. It took me 3 months to teach this man how to turn on the computer. So that's where I was at with him.
Communication with your coaches, I think, is like everyone's saying, is the most important thing. Because when my grandma died, we had gone 1-11. We had beaten Army at home. That was our only win of the season, and then my grandma dies. And I told her, "You can't die today. It's Thanksgiving week." I said, what's happening? She's like, "I like die." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm just letting you know it's Tuesday. I come from practice in the morning. We have practice tomorrow. We have some practicing on Thursday. Friday I have whatever they need me to do on Friday. Saturday we have a game, which means I have morning stuff. So I'm just letting you know I'm busy until Sunday. So please don't die after Sunday." And she waited. But as soon as that happened, Sunday night, Monday, after our banquet, called my head coach first thing in the morning, and I said, "Hey, it happened." And he's like, "Great. Come back when you're ready." And I didn't feel bad. I didn't have to take any official time off because I had been working nonstop for the whole season. I don't even know if we had a bye week that year. That might have been one of the no bye week years, which that's always fantastic. But for whoever wants to hear this part of the story, I started smoking cigars. I had a cigar with Eric Cantu and his dad, Henry. Henry was the video director at the Bills forever. Eric was at Syracuse. He was with the Colts, and then now he's at the Lions. Back when we were in Indiana, or we had the Indianapolis CSVA. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. And the story goes that the woman at the cigar lounge handed me a menu, and it looked like a wine list or a bourbon list or any other list that you don't know what's on there. And I said, I think I'll try and learn more about this if this happens again, if I end up in an environment. So I went to my local shop and I started making friends there, and that led to that being my hobby, because I'm not going to run, I'm not going to do CrossFit, I'm not going to do anything that I'm not going to knit, like none of those activities. And cigars ended up being a thing, but I got to socialize with people. I got to I have online cigar groups. When we go for CSVA, I go to different shops, people I've made connections with as well, and it's kind of an extension of what we have as a group, where you aren't necessarily local to the people that you socialize with, that you can have that long distance relationship and do like a meetup halfway somewhere, or you meet them when you're traveling. And it enables me to see a different part of the country, or how people live, or whatever else people do, because it's completely different from my job. And I did have to sit in the lounge and hear some guys talk about, oh, why can't the kids get paid? I mean, like, what if the guys just want to buy their girlfriend some dinner and whatever? I'm like, they get a stipend. And I listened to that for like an hour and a half. And I finally chimed in. I'm like, these kids get a stipend. They're not completely resourceless. They're not as broke as you think they are. So you can stop talking out of your lane. So it's kind of going back to Brad's point. It's stuff like that I can't hear from a fan, because we know what happens in real life in the office.
Gotcha.
But that's finding what works for you for your life.
That's awesome.
Hey, Jimmy, I hate to bust in like this. I have a Zoom with the Pac-12 video guys I got to jump onto. So I don't know if there's anything else I can do here prior to me saying.
No, just go ahead and drop whatever contact info you're comfortable with in the chat. That'd be good if anybody wants to catch up with you, if you're willing to do it. Yep.
Or why don't you just share everything I gave you to them? Because Dory knows I'd much rather have you work than me. So I'm very happy to have someone else do the typing. So, but anybody needs anything, just reach out, give me a call. Doug, good to see you. Usually I only hear you, but it's nice to see you as well. So
you guys come down and visit more often.
Called me yesterday.
All right, you guys take care.
Go back to Sushi 99 after this Corona Palooza.
I can't wait. All right, take care.
Thank you. Now, before I wrap all this up, out of respect of everybody's time, I just want to acknowledge a couple of people that are into this chat. Doug Osumi, Paul Riggs, Timothy Jackson. I think you're still on here somewhere. I saw you flashing. You flash on and off. But
come on.
Yeah, but I just want to acknowledge that these guys have just as much, if not more, experience than people on the panel, and I'm very thankful that they're here. And that's all I wanted to do. And I could have picked a whole bunch of other people to be on this, but we would be going on for 24, 48 hours. So we'll definitely one of these. Yeah.
Dory's older than me by 5 years.
Why you gotta call her out like that? Just kidding. I want the very final question to be, before y'all leave, if you could go back and see your day one self, what would be one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Work for Google. on the IPO. I'd be retired by now.
I'd probably kick myself in the ass.
Don't take yourself so seriously. Tomorrow the sun will come up and you'll do the same thing again. You'll make the same mistakes. Nobody makes mistakes in this business out of a lack of effort or care. It's out of a lack of knowledge or support. I think I ran really fast, really hard for a long time before I realized. Take a breath. Yes. You know, talk to someone who knows. Don't bounce your problems off your staff. Bounce it off your peers.
Hey, and for me, with all the amount of time that I've put into this industry, to the university, I would have said be a doctor. Take advantage of the huge income that doctors have and the 6-week vacations that they go on, because they never seem to be available when I need them. But no, I love this business, love what I do, and love the time that I put into it. And it just reverts back to maybe the first question that was asked, with the answer of relationships, and just making sure that you build strong relationships and smell the roses along the way.
Awesome. Anybody else? J-Mac? Always got to let you have the last word.
Hey, Mac's been off the radar for the last 5-10 minutes.
J-Mac's chair. Good. TJ? Got a wisdom to impart on the youngins?
No, I would just say take advantage of every opportunity. Instead of looking for the next opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity you have at that moment.
Well, awesome. I think that's plenty of time. Again, I want to respect all your guys' time, and I appreciate all your efforts and everything that you've done for the industry. Seriously, and it's an honor to have you guys here. And you know what? I can't be thankful enough for everything that you guys had to go through. So we have what we have today. And hopefully this isn't the last time that we can all do this. And we just want to be able to tip our cap to all of you guys and everything that you've done and continue to still do in the industry. So at the end of the day, we're going to lean on you still, no matter how long you guys are in the industry still. And I hope that you guys can still do that for us. And we hope to just hold the standard for you guys and take it even further. That's our challenge that you imparted to us. Okay. For now, same thing like we always do. We're going to just drop all our contact info in the chat. We'll stay a couple minutes after to stop the recording and say whatever we need to say for a couple minutes. But go ahead and drop whatever contact info that you're willing to put in the chat. If somebody wants to reach out to you further, that'd be great. But outside of that, everybody's free to go. Enjoy your weekends. Thank you.